Hi, friends. This is Susie Church Brown. It is so nice to be with you today. I know it's been a while since I recorded and shared a podcast. My apologies for that. You know how it is with Foreign Service folks and our long extended summer trips. In particular, ours was extremely extended because we left in June from our last post, and then spent the summer stateside, quote unquote, vacationing. And you all know what home leave is like, and it's not usually very restful or relaxing. And then we had a split arrival to our onward assignment, primarily because work responsibilities brought my direct hire spouse to post earlier, and my youngest had to get here for school, while the other two and I got to do university drop-off. So all sorts of different balls up in the air, bringing this summer into a extremely busy, chaotic, but mostly enjoyable sort of a mess. So what I wanted to talk to you today about is how we are the same but different with respect to university kids and who are foreign service, and university kids who are from stateside high schools coming to the same university. And so, and I should asterisk this with the fact that I am no expert by any stretch of the imagination, and other people will 100% have a different experience than what we have had. But through different conversations with families who have also dropped off their kids for university, they kind of echo and mirror the sorts of things that I'm going to be talking about. And so this is really more to manage your expectations, manage your kids' expectations, and kind of help you maybe offset some of the experiences that we've had, so that, you know, learn from my mistake or learn from our experiences, and maybe you can help your kids land as well as possible. So in light of that, like, my kids did 100% land well. I feel like their high school experiences definitely prepared them well for university. I feel as though, I think that our kids chose wisely for where they applied to university. And I feel like the university that they are attending is a really good fit. Partly because there's a lot of international and foreign service kids there, and partly because it is a familiar atmosphere. Both of my kids, by some stroke of luck, both of the kids are at the same school, which is William & Mary College in Williamsburg, Virginia. And we've been quite happy with the experience. So I have 10 things that are the same but different with our kids versus stateside high school kids. And so I'll start first with the thing that I noted about parents. And so, as you all know, foreign service parents, I mean, the point is we're overseas, right? And so we don't typically get to join our kids for the specific events that are set aside for parents by the university. So for example, like family weekend, which is you know, a time when they bring in families to just, you know, they have like organized activities for families to enjoy with their kids and kind of really experience the campus life. I mean, I could 100% buy a ticket and go back, but it kind of feels as though that would be an unnecessary expense. And, you know, we talked about this with the kids and kind of mentally prepared them for it. And so, you know, they already have plans. And part of their plans include hanging around with the families of their friends there, and also just like, you know, some downtime. The other times when this was maybe a little bit more of a miss, at least in my mind, was after the two kids were accepted. During the spring leading up to the end of senior year, there's a number of different sorts of admitted students weekends where the kids can go and experience the campus and just kind of get a feel for how things are. And we didn't get to experience that. So just, I mean, it is what it is when we decide to serve overseas, but it is something that we miss out on. So how are the kids the same but different? So let's just start with the silly things, maybe not so silly as things cool down. So we have basically spent the entire memorable time of the boys' lives in tropical countries, and they do not understand weather patterns. I mean, they understand like, the monsoon coming in and it being more rainy or being drier, but they don't understand layering, and they don't understand what winter rain is like, for example, or snow, or dealing with wind, cold wind. And this is something that I grew up in an extremely cold climate. I grew up in Idaho, so I know what winter is like. I know what snow is like. I know that you can't just wear a jacket and be good with it. Like, you have to layer. And especially when kids are maybe a little bit more pig-headed, let's use that word, they are less likely to take feedback and input from people who might have experience with, for example, weather patterns. And so trying to get my kiddo set up for properly being able to accessorize and layer for when the weather does change, that was not my finest parenting moment. And the second thing kind of goes along with that, like, your kids will have all of their stuff with them in their dorm room. And so if they're not rooming with a foreign service kid, or maybe their roommate isn't familiar with the way that works, they may not understand why your kid has so much stuff, shoved under the bed and shoved in like storage bins and et cetera. But they have to take all their stuff with them, like for the whole seasons. It's not like they can just run on home and grab their winter stuff on a long weekend or something. So that is definitely something to consider. You will have considerable amounts of things stored in bins, in bags, at the top of closets, etc. And probably more so than kids who live or are from the state where the university is, or not so far away. The other thing that is, a lot of the things that I'm going to mention have to do with experiences that your kid may have had or may not have had. So, for example, one of the life skills that kids come to university being able to do is do their own laundry. And I feel like a lot of kids stateside have the opportunity to learn this skill and really get good at it, separating, washing, kind of even just managing and scheduling the loads throughout the week or weeks. Whereas a lot of foreign service kids enjoyed having household help while they were living overseas. So they didn't have to learn how to do things like laundry. But this is a life skill, right? And this is, it's a considerable expense for the cost of laundry at universities. And so this is definitely something that I strongly recommend you help your kids develop this skill. So another thing that is kind of interesting is a lot of foreign service kids don't necessarily have job experiences, like after school jobs during high school, or summer types of jobs. Our kids and a lot of the kids that I know of have only had seasonal hire jobs at the embassy. And so perhaps, it's maybe a slightly higher level skill than working at McDonald's, and not to belittle anyone that works at McDonald's, but, working a fast food line definitely develops your customer service skills. But, if you've worked in the finance office at the embassy, then you're learning slightly different sorts of skills, right? But also, they generally don't have the application nor interview process to go through that any kid stateside would have gone through already. And so this is where, our kids don't necessarily have those skills. And kind of to piggyback on that, during school breaks, like during winter or summer break, they don't have that job to go back to. And so then they'll either have to go through that whole application interview process at that point, or they'll have to go back to that seasonal hire job again. And so it's just a super interesting kind of dichotomy between what our kids experience and what stateside kids experience. But then on the other hand, like my eldest has a US government security clearance, and there are not very many high school kids that can say that same thing. So it's just, one of those trade-offs that we have. So what my kids have also experienced is that they are very skilled at, for example, putting together a presentation or working with different groups and getting their goals accomplished. They can write a paper at the drop of a hat, given a topic or a starter cue. But what they are not very good at is multiple choice exams. So our kids have completed their studies in the IB curricula, and so multiple choice is not a part of that curricula or that assessment. And so they really struggle with being able to look at those 4 options and, start weeding off the ones that they wouldn't select, but also doing that in a timely manner, because a lot of exams in university are timed. And so they really need to learn this skill. This is actually why I was really encouraging my kiddos to do the SAT and PSAT and ACT exams if ACT is available wherever you are. And that is just purely not because of results, not because, the test has to be submitted for application, because we're still kind of in that weird bubble area where a lot of applications are test optional for admission. But learning how to do those multiple choice exams is a skill. And it's something that stateside kids just grow up with, because you have multiple choice for pretty much every course, whereas IB does not enjoy that. And along those same lines, a lot of kids who complete school, their high school career in an IB school will not carry credits towards graduation. They may test out of their basic courses for example, a language or a math or an English, but they won't get the credit for the class. Whereas with AP classes, so a lot of kids that are completing high school stateside, or if it's a school overseas that has the AP program, they will be able to get pass the exam, and with their results get credits to go towards graduation, which is, you have to have so many credits in order to graduate, regardless of what your major may be. So, that's not a small thing. So 2 other points, and these have to do with unrealistic expectations of our kids. Kids that grow up overseas get to develop a huge repertoire of foods that they appreciate and enjoy. And I should say, the ease with which they can access those foods that they appreciate and enjoy. Especially if they're going to school in a smaller town they are not going to be able to find those foods. And that can be, that can lead to a lot of food disappointments. And so that's one of the things that certainly my kids mention fairly regularly is that, oh, but I can't find, Korean dumplings, and that's what I really love. Or one of my other kids is like obsessed with hot sauces, and he's just like, there's nothing here. Williamsburg has many, many things, but wide range of food availability is not one of them. And so anyway, just, that unrealistic expectation that what they find overseas in, insert capital city here, they'll be able to find stateside, especially in smaller towns. The other thing that I think is really, really important for parents to manage, and that is what school breaks look like. I don't know about your family, but we put a lot of emphasis on experiential sorts of gifts. And so, like, we don't give gifts per se, but we give experiences. So, our breaks, we go to places like, Biarritz, France, and go surfing, or we go to spend the summer in Australia, or we go to, Turkey for 3 weeks at Christmas time, or, we do these sorts of super, well, to me, enjoyable, and I think mostly to the kids as well, but like, this is what our breaks look like. And so then when kids go to university, they operate under the assumption that their breaks will continue to look that way. And it's just, it's really interesting because this is, maybe we just did a very poor job managing these expectations, but certainly the feedback that we're getting from our college students is that it's certainly normal that they should get to do fall break in this exotic location. And then of course they'll join us for, the December break, wherever we're planning on going. And oh, by the way, for spring break, and they go to this other exotic location. And so it's just, little star on that one. Unless you really want to be financing your jet-setting child to gallivant about the globe, this is definitely something that I would nip in the bud as quickly as possible from personal experience. Anyway, this is just, basically a long ramble about the things that I noticed where our kids are different than stateside educated high school kids coming into university, and not worse, just different. And so helping them realize that being different is not a bad thing, it's just different, is also a part of this, the point of this conversation, just so your kids know kind of what to expect and what they'll be seeing from the people that they're meeting, their peers that they're meeting at university. And hopefully they all land well and have a great first or second or whatever number year at university. Thanks for listening. This is, it's always fun to share my thoughts and observations, and I hope you enjoy them. And I will have more again soon. Have a great day.